What's up everyone, welcome back to Ask Dan Anything, and today I've got a question from my man Bryce. It's Bryce Anderson. He runs 5-Dimensional Man. He's a coach and who does very similar work to me. I really recommend you check out his stuff. He's got an awesome way of framing how to work on masculinity and redefining what it means to be a man. So he sent through a question that he gets a lot, and I know he has his own answers to this, but he wanted to hear my take on it as well. And the question is, what is your best advice for men who are stuck, besides the obvious advice of getting back to the fundamentals of life segments they are struggling with? So what Bryce does with 5-Dimensional Man is he breaks down life into 5 dimensions, and each person can then assess how they're going in each dimension and figure out which one they want to work on, for example health or relationships or so on, which is just a great way of doing it. So I'm gonna assume that you've already tried that, and we're going to have a look at the other kind of stuck. Now I've already done a video about what to do if you've been trying and then you've slacked off, so you're in a rut after attempting lots of different actions. I'm gonna assume that you haven't actually done anything yet, that you're this kind of stuck where you can't get moving, you feel like you're in a holding pattern, purgatory, plateauing, and you don't know what to do about it. There are different kinds of stuck, probably too many for me to even list here today, but I want to talk about 4 of the main ones that seem to come up with the people that I'm working with. The first one is busyness, and by busyness it means that you just don't seem to even have time to think about it. Your life seems to be filled from dusk till dawn with, no, the other way around, dawn till dusk, I was thinking of the movie. With just stuff. You're just noise, obligations, responsibilities. This big to-do list and never gets done. That's one of the first kinds of stuck, and I'll be talking about this a lot in my upcoming book, The Naked Truth. I do not believe that busy is a real thing. I do not believe it's possible to have more going on per time than anybody else in the world. Every piece of time, every plank measure of time is the same. A second is a second for anybody. What you fill it with is completely your choice. Busyness is when you manage to convince yourself that you no longer have a choice as to what you fill your time with. That's what busyness is. You convince yourself. So when you say you're too busy to get anything done, to change your life, what you're really saying is you're choosing to prioritize other things over the change. So that's one of the key things to understand if you're using the busy excuse that for some reason you're afraid of change. Comfortable. Comfortable is another one. And comfort, or I should say complacency and familiarity, is one of the biggest things that keeps people stuck. Your brain's really wired for survival. Right at the back there, the brain stem and parts of the limbic system, they want you to feel familiar. Not necessarily comfortable, because comfortable is a very vague, subjective thing, but familiar. Your brain wants you to feel like everything's the same all the time, because then it feels like it can predict things, and then it feels like it can control your survival. This is how reptiles behave. They keep comfortable all the time, or familiar. They only hunt the bare minimum, they just lie out in the sun and stay safe. But you're not a reptile, you're a human, you poor bastard. You've got a neocortex that constantly hassles you about doing more for your life. And so comfort isn't very comfortable for humans. We can be in a familiar, easy survival situation, but it can be very psychologically and emotionally uncomfortable for us because we look at our life and go, why the fuck am I even alive? Which other reptiles don't have to deal with, right? So comfort is where you've created so much familiar safety that you're unwilling to let go of it, which gives you a hint as to where you might need to go with this problem. You may need to create some unsafety. Confusion. Confusion is that state between knowing, isn't it? You know something, and then before you know the next thing, there's confusion. And where a lot of people get stuck is they want to avoid that space. They feel confused about confusion. They don't want to go into something they don't know because they don't know how to go into something they don't know. It's confusion squared, inception. And so what happens is people avoid change because they know it will be confusing. This is where, if you've got the classic I don't know where to start idea, it's understanding that that's definitely a lie. You start by doing anything. You could pull an action out of a hat that doesn't even make sense and do it, and it would give you more information than what you have now. So it's not really that you don't know how to start, it's that you don't want to start in a beginner-like way. You want to be good at this thing, whatever it might be, already. You don't want to test and taste and get it wrong and go down dead ends in the maze just to find out it's not the path you want. That's what's really preventing you. Being confused, you can totally act in the space of confusion. It's a great place to act. It's like a buffet of choice. You can do anything because you don't know what the right thing to do is. But if you're not willing to be wrong, then you'll be stuck in confusion. And the last real stuckness thing that I wanted to talk about today was being controlled. This is where you've been manipulated by external forces into believing that you must keep where you are. They might not be attempting to manipulate you. This could be like having children. Children aren't saying, hey, but you have to take care of us, you can't change careers now. But just their very existence you perceive as that message. You think, I have to wait for them to be older before I can try something unsafe. Or you might have somebody directly manipulating you. A boss that uses both coercion and cajoling to keep you in the job. They're like, I really need you here, just give me one more year and I'll promote you. That kind of bullshit. You might have a partner who's afraid of change, or was for other reasons abusing and manipulating you, and you can't see it. It's a subtle thing where you just feel like you can't move all the time, and you especially feel it after a conversation with them. A lot of people have parents who are still deeply immersed in their lives, and controlling in a very subtle or not so subtle way. So again, what we can see here is all of these various forms of being stuck are about fear. And when you understand that, you get to the start line. So a lot of people are trying to figure out that there's something else. There's something wrong with me. I don't have the skills. I lack this. I need more support. I need more time. No, start with, I'm afraid. Our shame around fear is one of our biggest barriers to success, because everything you need to do to enjoy your life more requires you choosing to generate fear. Choosing to go into a situation afraid, unsure of yourself, at risk. And because we're shamed, we're told, especially as men, we're told that being afraid is a failure, which is very bizarre, because all the greatest heroes were the ones who faced fears. We get stuck. We start calling it busy and comfortable and confused and controlled, when really, actually, we're just shitting ourselves. We're scared of something. Humans evolve naturally. If you just kept doing what you felt like doing, you would eventually create an amazing life, or die trying. But when you get afraid, and you're not allowing yourself to be afraid, then you stop evolving, you stop moving. So assume what you're afraid. So assume that you're afraid, and make the first step trying to figure out what you're afraid of. I think the best thing to do when somebody is stuck, to the initial action, is to do something that scares you. And not just any random old thing like bungee jumping or whatever, though anything will help. Seriously, if you can't think of anything that makes you feel anxiety and fear, doing that. Because it will just at least eliminate an option. But rather, there's going to be you. There's going to be this vague sense of who you want to be, what you want to be doing with your life, however vague, even if it's just something better, is the most you can come up with. And then there's this monster in between those 2 points that you've been trying to go around. Maybe the monster is prioritizing your time, because if you do that, then you have to treat yourself like you're worthwhile and upset other people and disappoint other people, so you're scared of like taking your time away from others. If it's comfort, maybe the monster is discomfort, simple uncertainties, and finances not being as good as they want, and your social life changing, where you live changing, all these discomforts. Maybe that's the monster. If you're confused, maybe the monster is being a beginner, being a newbie, getting things wrong, embarrassing yourself, those kind of things. And if you're controlled and manipulated, then probably the monster is about letting other people down, is about breaking the rules. Whatever it is, using your excuse, busy, comfortable, confused, controlled, whichever one you think applies to you the most, you're looking for the monster, the fear that makes that thing the excuse. And this is where I take a very stoic approach to quote Ryan Holiday, the obstacle is the way. I do something to fight that monster. So for example, if my excuse is being busy, so I'm afraid of changing the priorities of my time, then to face that monster would be to delete something from my calendar and replace it with 2 hours of planning my lifetime, right? If I'm comfortable, then facing the monster it could be something stupid like going out and spending a night in the woods with no food, just to be uncomfortable. It might be giving all my money to charity so that I have to start from scratch financially. It might be ending a friendship. If I'm confused, it might be going to do something like a dance class where I'm going to be a beginner, a martial arts class where I'm going to get my ass kicked, going something where I'm deliberately choosing to be the most useless person in the room, you know. And if it's about being controlled, this might be about having a confrontation, about telling people to just back the fuck off because you need to look at your own life. Whatever it is, that's the way forward. Now, where you want to be, you might not have any idea what that is yet. You don't need to, because you're being blocked by this monster. That needs to be fought first. You need to get that monster out of the way before you even know what the fuck you're doing. To end, there's one final solution, and I call it going zero. And going zero is a huge action that very few people have the courage to be capable of. A few of my clients have done it, where you simply trim your whole life back to zero. You move, you quit your job, you totally change social circles, you change the way you eat, change your health, everything. You just bring everything back to zero and start over again. You know, I mean, in practical terms, I recommend saving up a little bit of money before you do this so that you've got some breathing room time. There's no urgency straight away to decide, but you just cut everything. Assume that everything up until now has just been a mistake in a way that it's been training to find the real thing. And the only way you're going to have space to find that real thing is to destroy everything that exists. Get back down to the foundation to rebuild. If life is really shit for you, you feel real stuck and you hate everything about life, then I recommend the zero solution. You will survive it. You just won't feel like you will. So I hope that helps, guys. Send your questions through, dan@brojo.co.nz. And of course, if you are stuck and you are really motivated to do something about it, you can get in touch with me and maybe we'll talk about some coaching. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and I'll see you all next time.